All right, tip of the day. Um, when I'm building content, a lot of times I'll get the owners or somebody asking me, "Hey, could we do a walkthrough or a rendering of it?" And in the past, when you're just making basic geometry, panel boards and stuff like that, they really don't come out very well, especially when you're rendering them. And I give an example here where I'll render these three different type of panel boards here. This panel board to the right is something I created. This is from a manufacturer, and this is from another firm. And basically, what they did here, to get the line, they basically drew an extra piece of geometry. But the problem is that when you put it in render mode, there's nothing to distinguish that color except maybe a little bit of shading. Here, it's just a line. It's just going to disappear when you go to render the object. Okay. Now, I used to work for Square D, and I had to build all their components. And basically, in order to make it look real, not say real, make it look like the actual product itself, I came up with this method here, and I'll show you how I did it. And what I've done here is basically, let's go plan view. I basically, in the extrusion, I basically created a 1/8 inch groove in the trim itself. And by doing that, let's go back to where it was. Let's see, hold on. When you do that, I then take the back of the actual box itself, and what I do there is I paint the box itself. As you want to do here, I'm going to turn it to coarse. Paint it black. Paint the surface black. So that means that wherever there is, a relief of some sort, like here, I left it, an 1/8 inch. As you can see that block line. So when you're rendering the thing, even here, I left the for the technically the handle, or not handle, but the latch to open up the panel board. And so in render mode, I found out it basically looks really good. And to give you some examples of what it would look like, for example, as you can see here, I've got some switch gear. Now the breakers themselves are just extrusion, with color black, but all the lines and anytime you see a latch or something like that, it's just basically where I've taken out the extrusion, and I'm showing the back of the extrusion, which is black. Okay. Here, as you can see, the panel boards, it's, to me, this looks much better. It looks like a real panel board. I mean, and it's not, you're not like adding a ton, or if any, hardly any geometry, to make it, make the actual family larger. Here, well, there's no extrusions here, but as you can see, here's what a stand would look like, and here's a switchboard. Basically using the same technique. Here I'm basically creating a void. Unlike that switch gear, I actually created, pretty sure I created a piece of geometry. But here, this is a Snyder, or a Square D, it's QD2, and the breakers I basically are just creating, the openings and showing the back, which is black. And it just, like I said, it does actually save a little bit when you start doing it like that, because you're not having all this extra extrusions. Okay, and here I did the same thing for the UPSs here. I did use a material that's perforated, and it does show the black in the background. All right, and if you don't, it's just kind of what you get. I'm not saying this, you can't use this, but it definitely doesn't look like anything like this. And the other thing too is I also make the equipment. Square D, the color of Square D products is basically ANSI 49. Oops, sorry. This is the other thing too, that basically if you're just drawing boxes, this is something that a project manager asked me, say, hey, could you do me a 3D view of what the building looks like? Now this actually happened before, this project was before I started the company, and I was like, yeah, you really can't see much. You're just drawing rectangles here, and it really doesn't represent what the equipment really looks like. But if you're going to do, like for example, Square D, their equipment is ANSI 49, and you can basically, this is the RGB color scheme, which I basically use now. If I'm using Eaton, of course, this is Eaton's. They use ANSI 61, I'm pretty sure. So I try to make the equipment look as realistic as possible, and not by adding a ton of geometry. As you can see here, they're just boxes, and this is just a trim. So my equipment is pretty it's pretty lightweight. So but that's the trick I use to get it to look when you look right when you start doing some rendering. All right, that's my tip of the day. Until next time.